The sun was hanging overhead, signifying it was the afternoon. A certain Chianthrope had dozed off behind a desk. A mop of brown hair was lying on top of their arms, their dog ears twitching ever so slightly from the noise coming in another room. Her soft snores were accompanied by the slight wagging of their tail. Gentle footsteps came out from the other room, making their way to the sleeping clerk. Suddenly, a hand gently shook their shoulder, rousing them awake. "Naza? Wake up, it's almost time for lunch." A blue-haired man smiled at their sleeping child, making sure she wouldn't continue the day with an empty stomach. Mmm. Bleary eyes opened as she lifted her head. Naza Erasuis was slowly shaking the cobwebs out of her head. Her eyes slowly focused on her patron god who was smiling at her. Her face flushed red, and her mind immediately woke and stood straight. Lord Mayak? This isn't what it looks like. I was just Dash. Before she could continue to ramble any further, she was cut off by his laugh. Shaking his head, Mayak spoke in a gentle tone. "You don't need to be so flustered, Naza. I'm not angry or anything like that. As a matter of fact, seeing you taking a break every once in a while is nice to see." Her blush deepened at that. "I was worried that you might have been overworking yourself again. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't notice sooner." He finished with a small frown on his face. No, Lord Mayak. I wasn't overworking myself. I was just up all night reading the book he got me about medicinal techniques from other countries." Naza explained. "It was my fault. Even though I was supposed to work behind the counter like I usually do, I couldn't help but be absorbed by all the different methods I've never heard about. I suppose I got a little excited about how to increase our sales and earnings that I didn't notice that it was late until it was too late." She bashfully lowered her head in embarrassment as Mayak simply smiled at her. "Well, if that's all there is, then I suppose I could rest easy. Come on, I've already prepared us some lunch," Mayak said as he led Naza into the kitchen where lunch was served. The two quietly ate their lunch, savoring the flavor of their meals with delight. Though, Naza noted that there are more tomatoes in the dishes than before, something that Mayak simply happily agreed with. Naza noticed that there was an extra plate of rice balls and a bowl of tomato soup. "Is he coming back early? Doesn't he usually come back just before sundown, Lord Mayak?" She couldn't help but ask, making Mayak look up from his meal. "Oh, I asked him to come back earlier than usual," Mayak said, finishing his meal. "I plan for us to all go out today to purchase some new clothes for the two of you. Although, he is running a bit late now that you mentioned it." Naza, also having finished her meal, was surprised by this. "But Lord Mayak, we shouldn't be spending money on stuff like that. Aren't we supposed to be saving our money to pay for the debt this month?" While she was happy that her deity was thinking of the well-being of his children, she couldn't help but be frugal with their earnings, especially when the cause of their debt was her fault. Her right arm was a constant reminder of that. Seeing this, Mayak, who had taken her plate and had placed it in the sink along with his, assured her worries. "Don't worry, Naza. Ever since he joined our Familia over a month ago, our coffers have been steadily growing as of late. So much so that we won't have to worry about paying for the next 6 months." At that, Naza couldn't say anything else. Indeed, their coffers have been steadily growing, all thanks to their newest Familia member who joined last month. He had been going into the dungeon every day without fail, earning more than what they could make in a year. It was all thanks to him that the burden of their debt was greatly lessened. She couldn't be more thankful for his contributions. So it's why she never said anything when she noticed that he was earning far more than what a level 1 is capable of in the upper floors. Although he looked far more capable, even to her who was a level 2, she couldn't help but shake off the worry of something bad happening to him, because her beloved deity would be sad if that was the case. "I'll have a chat with him once he gets back," Naza muttered to herself as she went back to managing the store. Their Familia was primarily a medicinal one, so it's to no surprise that their Familia home also served as their store. Her Chianthrope ears heard footsteps coming from the entrance. She thought it was him, but suddenly remembered that she couldn't hear his footsteps even if he was standing right next to her. She focused more on the hearing and noticed that it was 2 different footsteps coming closer and closer. Suddenly, the door was kicked open, followed by booming laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha. Naza's mood dipped as she saw the familiar figure of Dian's sect followed by his Familia Captain Ermid Tessier behind him. Mayak, I'm here. You got my money for this month? Dian's sect, a white-haired bearded man wearing white robes with gold trimmings, stood with a toothy grin. Dian, Mayak muttered as he came out of the kitchen because of the commotion. I decided to show up to your dusty old shop, 'cause I thought you wouldn't show up. Be grateful that I took the time of day to visit. Bwahahaha. The god let out another booming laughter. Naza's mood soured even further, and judging from Mayaka's face, he was too. Well, Mayak, where's my money? Just as Mayak was about to open his mouth to answer, someone beat him to the punch. Right here. The voice came from a figure that was standing next to Ermid, surprising the girl as she didn't even notice him standing so close to her. A young man wearing a dirty brown poncho, along with a black headband on his head, made his presence known to the two visitors. However, that wasn't what caught their immediate attention. They were drawn to his ringed purple left eye that didn't match his right onyx black one. Once his eyes landed on them, a shiver went up their spines followed by a feeling of intense coldness, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. Naza and Mayak immediately recognized him. Sasuke, you're back. Mayak welcomed his second child home. His face looked nonchalant as ever, even in this unpleasant situation. He acknowledged the greeting with a nod. Sorry about being late. My advisor wanted to speak with me. It took a while. He answered the unasked question before turning to face the Dian sect captain, holding out a bag of valise in front of her. This should cover for this month. Yes. Thank you. Ermid stammered a bit, her cheeks dusted with pink as she saw his face. Seeing this, Naza quietly snorted. Ermid had the same reaction she had when they first met. She hated to admit it, especially when she was infatuated with her god, but she couldn't deny that their newest Familia member was by far the hottest person she had ever known, although she would never admit it. Sasuke handed the bag, which the white-haired girl meekly accepted. Seeing this, Dian couldn't help but ask, And who are you supposed to be? Just a member of the Mayak Familia, Sasuke replied before ignoring him as he walked to Naza, handing her a bag of valise as well, which she accepted. All the potions sold out, as usual. She happily accepted the bag, glad to see and feel the heavy weight of it. Naza had the devious idea of using Sasuke's charms to sell some potions at a slightly higher price whenever he made his way to the dungeon. She was glad to hear that it worked, with every potion he sells almost immediately selling out. Although it was met with some protest from him, but ended up giving in when she used her authority as a captain. Though not before being told off about selling watered-down potions. She got an earful from Mayak after Sasuke revealed that little tidbit to him. Sasuke, Mayak called out to him. I've prepared you some lunch, it's in the kitchen. You can eat now, I'll deal with this. Sasuke nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. Mayak then returned his attention to the white-haired god. Seems like you got someone useful, Mayak. Good on you. Now you won't have reason to be late paying this time. Bwahahaha. The laughing god left, followed by the Ermid, who composed herself and bowed before leaving. Mayak simply let out a tired sigh as went to shut the door. Dealing with Dian's sect was mentally taxing for him. He couldn't imagine how Naza would feel since she hated him because of his attitude towards them. He just shook his head as he turned to his captain, already counting the money in the bag she received before storing them away. He entered the kitchen to see his second child sitting down enjoying his lunch. Having removed his poncho and headband, placing them both on the seat to his right along with his weapon, he could see his tattered high-collar black shirt that had seen better days. The same could be said about his pants. Mayak remembered bringing up the topic of his clothes, but Sasuke simply responded that he had nothing but the clothes on his back, which led to the decision to purchase some new clothes once they earned enough money. He had planned on secretly withdrawing money from their savings to use, but changed his mind once he saw how much he was earning regularly by dungeon diving. With how much he's earned, Mayak saw fit to spoil his children, especially since. Sasuke, Mayak called out to him, once again once he finished eating. The boy turned to him, and as soon as he did, Mayak noticed his left sleeve swayed in the air. Empty. Do you remember the plans I talked about yesterday? Sasuke nodded as he picked up his stuff again. Yes. You wanted for all of us to go out since today marks the first month of me joining the Familia? The young man asked, placing his sword back on his person. Yes. Are you okay to go now? Or do you want to rest a bit? I'm fine. It was a slow day anyway, so I didn't go that deep. Sasuke assured him. I'm ready to go anytime. Great. Then let's all get ready. Okay? Shin. Mayek simply laughed as they both got ready. Although he may have only known him for only a month now, Mayek is sure that he already has a good grasp on Sasuke's personality and interprets his response as a simple okay. Wow, look at that hottie. Good, he looks so hot. Hey, why don't you talk to him? Who's the girl he's with? His girlfriend? The god isn't bad looking either. Naza couldn't help but glare at the harlots who mentioned Mayaka's name. However, her glare went unnoticed as they ignored her. Of course, as their main focus was the two men she was with. After leaving their Familia home, Blue Pharmacy, the Mayak Familia made their way to the fashion district in Ororio, a place most known for selling clothing of all kinds, both casual and formal. Though there are other and far cheaper places to buy clothes, the fashion district has plenty of variety. The price of the clothing sold here varies from store to store, and the one they're shopping at caters specifically to humans. Naza glanced over to where the two men were picking out clothes. Mayak was showing a variety of brightly colored shirts to Sasuke, who was gazing at them with a mixture of reluctance and disgust. What about these? I think this one would suit you. No. I'm okay. Then how about this yellow shirt? It's great for Dash. No. Really? This is tougher than I thought. Mayak put back the clothes he had, causing Sasuke to sigh in relief. Then how this cherry pink dash? Mayak, with all due respect, your fashion sense is practically non-existent. Sasuke sighed as he lifted up a pile of clothes. I've already picked mine, so there's no need to waste time here anymore. Look, Captain is already getting antsy. The two looked at the Chianthrope, impatiently looking at them with a frown on her face, arms crossed. Yes, I think we should finish up. Here, I'll take that and pay for it. You two wait for me outside. Mayak left for the cashier once he took the clothes from me. Are we leaving now? Naza asked once Sasuke stood next to her. He nodded. He said we should wait for him outside. Naza looked at Mayak, who was paying for the clothes before walking outside, Sasuke following behind her. Once they made it outside, they stood next to each other as they waited for Mayak to finish. Sasuke, Naza began, getting his attention. I know you've been earning a lot for the Familia, and we appreciate it, truly. She took a deep breath, getting to the heart of the matter. But you do realize that what you earn from every day isn't what a normal level one is capable of, right? Shin. I know that you still have your secrets, but can you reassure me that nothing will happen to you when you go down to the lower floors? Naza turned to face him. Because if something were to happen to you, Lord Mayak would be devastated. She then looked down, subconsciously holding onto her right arm. I already caused him enough trouble with everything that happened in the past. I don't want to see him suffer anymore. There was a beat of silence. Neither spoke for what seemed to be an eternity. The only noise was from the bustling streets and the light chatter of shoppers. I understand how you feel, Naza. Sasuke suddenly spoke up. However, you don't need to worry. Mayak knows what I'm truly capable of. Since it is a secret, I simply just can't tell anyone about this. Is that so? Naza was surprised about this. Lord Mayak never told her about this. But then again, he did say it was a secret he couldn't tell anyone about. Sorry if it makes it sound like I don't trust you, because I did, in fact, not trust you back then. To be fair, though, you worded your statement earlier that only Mayak would be sad about my death and not you. Sasuke stated, and added when he saw Naza was about to protest the first statement. She looked away within shame, wincing at what he pointed out. I am sorry, Sasuke. I didn't mean it like that. She glanced at him to see him smiling, or smirking in this case. Don't worry, it's as the saying goes. Love is blind. You are more focused and concerned about the person you love, thus making everything else irrelevant. Sasuke said, making Naza wince again. Not a good trait for a captain, so I ask you to improve upon that. If not for me, then for the sake of future members. Yeah, sorry. Don't worry. I'm not that offended. We've only known each other for a month after all. and I've mostly been more focused on dungeon diving, so we never really get the chance to talk like this. So I'm partly to blame for this. Naza absorbed every word he said. Indeed, they don't talk as much. He always wakes up early before anyone else, and usually leaves a note if no one is awake yet, before leaving, and only comes back around dinner. Even at dinner they rarely talk. Usually, Mayak is the one who starts a conversation that gets everyone talking. She is the captain, and she failed to properly communicate with her fellow Familia members. But what struck her was she prioritized her deity's well-being and somewhat ignored him because of it. Once more, shame washed over her like a cold shower, clearing her mind to all the mistakes she made. Well, not anymore. She's gonna make this right, for the future of their Familia. All right, all done. Are you two ready to go to the next shop? Mayak suddenly said as he walked out of the shop, bags of clothes in his hands which Sasuke took. Yes, Sasuke answered as the bag disappeared inside his poncho. Do you have any place in mind, Captain? Huh? Oh. Naza was caught off guard by the question. I don't know what stores are good, though. She trailed off as they began walking, looking for a female-orientated store that caters to Chianthropes. If you don't have any in mind, then may I make a suggestion? Sasuke said, glancing at her. I spotted a store that would suit you a couple blocks back. They had a nice selection from what I glanced. I don't know. I think we should dash. They had a 50% discount sign on a large selection of their clothes. Then let's go. Naza suddenly agreed and walked off in the direction Sasuke pointed towards, leaving the two males trailing behind her. You're quite devious, Sasuke, Mayak suddenly said. I have no idea what you're talking about, Mayak, Sasuke replied as they continued walking at a sedated pace. I'm just catering to my captain's desire, after all. Mayak shook his head wryly. He didn't need his ability to detect lies to know what he said wasn't true. Naza suddenly discovered that shopping with two men was much more embarrassing than she originally thought. Captain, how about this? Sasuke held up a pair of blue underwear. I've been told that this is both comfortable and durable. If you're still on the fence on what to buy, then I suggest these. You won't have to worry about any discomfort, and it'll last for a long time. She just couldn't imagine that the simple act of buying clothes for her would be so. Naza, what do you think about this one? Mayak suddenly chimed in, holding up a frilly pink sundress. I think this would look great on you. You can wear it whenever you go out, or if any festivals are happening. Also, it's almost spring, so it's perfect for the season. So embarrassing. All around the store, the other customers were staring at them. Some were out of jealousy, being tended by two attractive individuals. Others were simply smiling at her situation, which were from motherly individuals feeling a sense of kinship from the two men fretting over her. Captain, what do you think about this? Naza, look, this one has long sleeves. Captain, this one is incredibly cheap. Naza, what color do you prefer? Captain, Naza, Captain, Naza, Captain, Naza, Gaha. The two were startled when Naza started screaming, which turned into surprise when she roughly grabbed them and threw them out of the store. I can pick my own clothes. You two wait out here. She then marched back inside the shop, leaving the two dumbfounded. Well, that was something, Sasuke commented as he got up and dusted himself before helping Mayak as well. Why, yes. This the first time I've seen Naza react like that. Perhaps she's at that age where she doesn't like being told what to wear? Sasuke inquired, having known Naza less than Mayak. I don't think so. Mayak shook his head before pointing towards a nearby bench. I think she was getting embarrassed about the way we were treating her, he said, sitting down. She was the one who said that didn't know what to pick. We were just helping, Sasuke said, following suit. Then again, I think I remember how she felt when I was young, but I was mostly an obedient child. Most of the time. Mayak laughed at the mental image. Really? After getting to know you for a month, you don't strike me as such. Well, I was really young back then. The person who I was in the past couldn't be any more different from the person who I am now. Mayak didn't answer, simply content with the answer. He won't ask about it anymore, nor will he ask why Sasuke had a melancholic tone when he said that. Some things are better left unsaid. So, what are we going to do for dinner? Sasuke answered, shifting the topic. Are we going to eat out as well? Of course. Mike answered. We're going to a place I know that serves the best food. Although, we'll have to get there a bit early since that place also caters to adventurers at night. Is the hostess of fertility? Yes. How did you know? I've passed by it a couple of times. Sasuke shrugged. Heard it from my advisor. Apparently, most adventurers usually go there after dungeon diving to relax and have fun. Mike chuckled. Well, your advisor is right about that. I know the owner of that place since she used to be a patient of mine back in the day. Sasuke nodded and listened as Mike recounted past tales. Soon after Naza was finished with her shopping, we all left for the Familia home to drop off our purchases before heading out again to eat. We made our way to the hostess of fertility at sundown, just as they were transitioning to serving adventurers. As we were walking up to the tavern, Mike spotted a familiar face setting up a menu sign at the entryway. It was a tall woman with brown hair fashioned in a ponytail. Once she finished setting up the sign, she turned and spotted them. Well, if it isn't Lord Mike. I haven't seen you in a while, the tall woman greeted before looking past him to see Sasuke, only freezing when she saw his purple eye. And I see you got yourself a new member? Hello, Mia. It had been a while, and yes, we did get a new member. Mike gestured to Sasuke, who was peeking inside the tavern. This is Sasuke Uchiha. He joined last month. We're here to celebrate his first month in the Familia since we didn't have the funds back then to celebrate him joining. Sasuke was pulled away from his observation to face Mia and gave a polite bow but was cut short when Mia held out her left hand for a handshake. The name's Mia Grand. I own the tavern here. Nice to meet ya, kid. Mia, his left hand is dash. Mike tried to explain when Sasuke shook the offered hand with his right. A pleasure, Mia Grand. Sasuke nonchalantly shook the hand, confusing Mia before Sasuke explained. Sorry, but I have no left hand to properly reciprocate the handshake. It's fine, Mia somewhat awkwardly said, before shaking it off and facing Mike. Since it's been a while since you've eaten here, I'll give you all a discount. Now come on, I'll show you to your table. Mia gestured for them to follow inside. Mia led them to an open table near the counter that fit 4 people. Everyone took their seats as Mia headed to the kitchen, saying that a waitress would be with them shortly. I didn't Miss Grand gives out discounts. I heard she rarely does it, Naza mentioned as she watched the proprietress leave. I hope she didn't do it because she pitied me, Sasuke said, not liking the idea of using his disability as a way of getting a discount. Mike laughed, grabbing their attention. No, that's not it. If anything, it's because of me she's giving a discount. She knows that our Familia has a debt, so this is simply her way of showing her kindness. His 2 children nodded in understanding before noticing that there was some light chatter all around. Mike turned to see that almost all the waitresses were distractedly looking at Sasuke with blushes on their faces. Naza also noticed this and frowned. She glanced at Sasuke, who seemed nonplussed by the attention he was receiving and was simply content with observing the tavern. Naza then figured this would be a good chance to start a conversation. Sasuke, she called out to him, making him stop his observation to face her. Aren't put off by the attention you're getting? I'm used to it, Sasuke answered with a deadpan. So long as they don't do anything stupid like throwing themselves at me, all is fine. And before you ask, yes, that had happened to me about a week ago. She was shocked when she heard that. She knew he was handsome, but to literally throw themselves at him? She couldn't imagine. Wait, had Mike experienced something like that too and didn't tell her? She turned to him and Mike let out a laugh. Haha, to think something like that can happen. I personally have never experienced such things. She let out a sigh of relief, glad knowing that none had tried to lay their hands on her deity. Soon after, a waitress finally went up to them, handing them their menu. Apologies for the delay. Here are your menus. A stoic elven waitress handed out a menu to each of them and stood by waiting for their order. At least this one isn't like the other, Naza dryly thought. She then looked at the menu and internally grimaced at the prices. Some of them were quite pricey, like Mike had warned her before, but assured her that the quality matched the price. I'll have some roasted meats and a pitcher of juice, Mayak said, putting down the menu. Pasta and some meat fritters, Sasuke ordered, placing down the menu as well, leaving Naza as the last one. She took one hard look at the menu, internally calculating the expenses of what everyone ordered and factoring it into her own choices. She grimaced and ordered a bowl of vegetable stew. After writing down their orders, the stoic elf took the menus after telling them that it would take a couple of minutes for their orders to be served. They passed the time by making small talk. Usually, it's between Naza and Sasuke discussing about the dungeon and potion sales. A few minutes went by, and they were presented with their meals. Picking up a glass of juice, Mayak raised his in a toast. Cheers to the Sasuke's 1-month anniversary. May the future be bright for us. Hear, hear. Naza and Sasuke cheered, raising their glasses and clinking them. With that, they began digging in their food. Naza glanced at the large portions of Mayak and Sasuke's meal before looking down at her sad-looking meat stew. Letting out a sigh, she picked up the spoon and was about to dig in until a plate filled with mouth-watering food entered her vision. She looked up to see the two staring at her. We knew you would cheap out when it came to ordering food, Somi, and Mayak purposely ordered large portion meals, Sasuke said as he pushed the plate closer to her. Here, eat. You cannot refuse. Naza would let out an argument if it weren't for her stomach growling. The two pretended to ignore it, while a betrayed Naza quietly accepted the meal and began eating. Mayak began cutting into his meal while Sasuke gave a quick prayer before eating as well. And so, the Mayak Familia enjoyed a nice meal together. So, are you from the Far East? You look like you're from there. Not even a second after they finished eating, something interesting is happening right now. Your left eye is so pretty. How did you get it? It looks so natural. Are you perhaps a demi-human? And of course, the person responsible as well as the cause is none other than the newest member of the Mayak Familia. Nay, why aren't you answering? We were having a nice conversation before. Naza watched in fascination as her junior masterfully ignored the nosiest woman she had ever seen. She suddenly appeared after another waitress took away their plates and brought a pitcher of water. She then suddenly zoned in on Sasuke and began a light conversation which Sasuke, from the look on his face, is greatly regretting. The silver-haired maid began rapid-firing questions on the raven-haired boy. Sasuke, looking completely over it, did nothing but ignore her after the first couple of questions. Are you an adventurer? Isn't it dangerous to go into the dungeon with just one arm? Sasuke, who was mid-drink, paused, before putting down his glass with a soft thunk. Naza thought that the waitress might have stepped on a landmine and was about to speak up. Who was mid-drink, paused, before putting down his glass with a soft thunk. Naza thought that the waitress might have stepped on a landmine and was about to speak up but was beaten to the punch. Seer. Despite her calm tone, Mia's voice echoed throughout the tavern, reaching the silver waitress's ears. Get back to work. The waitress, Seer, playfully stuck out her tongue before returning to the kitchen and waving to Sasuke goodbye, who let out a tired sigh. Mayak and Naza were worried when they heard that. Sasuke, are you all right? Mayak asked, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Yes, I am. Sasuke picked up the glass again and drank the water. I wasn't angry or anything. I was just surprised by the question. Is that so? Mayak said before standing up, causing the other two to follow suit. I think we've rested long enough. Let's all head home. The other two nodded and Mayak paid for the meal before leaving the tavern. Once they were outside, they were greeted by the bustling streets filled with adventurers having returned from a day of dungeon diving and are either going home, going into the tavern, or doing whatever business they may have. The trio walked back to their home in a comfortable silence. Once they made it home, Naza decided to turn in for the night, while Mayak went to prepare some stock for tomorrow. Sasuke also went straight to his room. Upon entering, he locked the door behind him before removing both his poncho and shirt, depositing them in a nearby chair. Azura Path. A mechanical left arm suddenly manifested itself. Flexing its fingers, Sasuke gave a couple of experimental clench before shacking off the odd feeling of having an arm again. I don't think I'll ever get used to this. Using one of the 7 abilities of the Rinnegan, Sasuke thought it prudent to never forget the feeling of using his left limb in case of emergencies, situations where he will require a second arm. Also, the fact that it is an advanced form of weaponry is part of the reason. Stretching both arms, he walked towards his desk and sat down. He opened one of his drawers and took out a scroll. Unfurling it, he pressed a hand on one of the symbols and, release, withdrew one of the items he stored within it. In his hand was an old leather-bound notebook that he purchased a month ago along with other supplies. Opening the notebook to the first page, he muttered what was written on it. Space-time Jutsu Research. Sasuke Uchiha, his predecessor and his other half, held immense knowledge about the topic, having been given access to such sensitive knowledge by his teacher Kakashi Hatake with his authority as Hokage. Along with the formula of the Flying Thunder God, he gleaned from both the second and fourth Hokage during the war. Armed with this knowledge, he experimented with Rinnegan's unique ability of manipulating space-time, thus creating a dimensional hoping portal in order to find out more about Kaguya Otsutsuki along with her clan to be better prepared should more beings like her become a threat. But right now, the current Sasuke Uchiha, the one who held the consciousness of a man from Earth who just happened to cosplay Sasuke Uchiha from the last movie, is researching and trying to find a way home, back to Earth. Although realistically speaking, that probably wouldn't happen. Whoever sent him here managed to give him the body of a fictional character and place him in a fictional world. He is a realist, after all, but he couldn't just give up without even trying at least. Who knows, maybe something will come up with all this research he's doing. Picking up the pen on the table, Sasuke began continuing his research. A man transported into another world in a body not his own will continue living his life, regardless of the absurd circumstances. Consequences be damned. The following morning went on, and as usual, everyone woke bright and early to get ready to open up shop. Mayak had prepared and fed breakfast for his two children, while Naza handed Sasuke the usual supply of potions and antidotes to sell at Babel, much to his reluctance. Sasuke bid farewell as he left for the dungeon. At the base of the tower, Sasuke began setting up shop, and because he has been doing this for over a month now, there were many people already waiting for him. Sasuke, 1 potion please. I'll need an antidote too. I'll buy your entire stock. Well, this is how it usually goes, leaving him to sell out every time. He put away the bag he used to carry the potions as well as the valise he earned from it, discreetly sealing them in one of his storage seals hidden inside his poncho. Just as about he was to leave, he heard a timid voice call out to him. Excuse me, do you happen to have any more potions? Sasuke turned around and was surprised to see that it wasn't a girl that called out to him, but it was a guy instead. Wow, did he really assume that people who would suddenly call out to him would be girls? Conceited much? Well, this is a nice change of pace. Sasuke mused, though not the first time he was approached by a guy, but every time it happened usually ended up with me beating them and their fragile egos. This face is more of a curse than a blessing, I swear. No, I'm afraid I just ran out. Sorry. Sasuke said to the kid's shoulders sagged a little. He let out a strained and embarrassed laugh, scratching his snow-white hair. Oh, I see. Thank you, anyways. The kid thanked him, much to his amusement. This kid might be the first person to genuinely thank him for selling potions. He nodded at him, but not before taking a look at his equipment. Most adventurers usually wear a decent amount of armor whenever they get the chance because the difference between good armor and bad ones could mean life and death. So Sasuke saw the snow-white-haired boy was wearing nothing but guild-issued equipment. It clued him in that maybe he was just a newbie adventurer who didn't even know how to get potions yet. Against his better judgment, Sasuke called out to his retreating form, Hey, white hair. The boy turned around just in time to catch a potion tossed his way. You're a newbie, right? He was surprised but still nodded. Then that one's on the house. Think of it as a newbie special offer. Take care of yourself in the dungeon. And with those final words, he left to go to the guild. Thank you very much. A distant shout of gratitude could be heard as he continued walking, only showing that he heard by giving a lazy wave. Strange. Why did he look so familiar? So, what did you call me here for? Sasuke sat on a comfortable sofa in a private room that the guild uses for discussing private matters, enjoying a cup of warm tea prepared by the half-elf sitting on the sofa opposite of him. I'm sure you already know, his advisor said. I don't, that's why I'm asking. Sasuke's smartass response got a tick mark from her. Her eye twitched as she placed a piece of paper on the table between them. A quick glance at it told Sasuke that it was a report about all the drop items he had exchanged for the past month. High-level drop items that could only be found in the middle and lower floors of the dungeon. Of course, he knew why she had brought up the subject. As a supposed level 1, this feat would be considered nigh impossible. It was only common sense. After all, a level 1 does not possess the abilities to safely traverse the lower floors and bring up high-level magic stones and drop items with them unscathed, especially in such large quantities. There had some suspicions about you lying about your level. His advisor stressed this. The only reason that this is the only suspicion about you is that no adventurer in their right mind would willingly hand over their drop items that are worth millions of valis to a single level 1. So, what you're saying is that you think I'm a lot higher level than I initially am? Sasuke asked, to which he received a nod. And to that end, the guild is requesting to see your status to confirm if you really are level 1. Should the suspicions be proven wrong, the guild will retract its investigation and will completely drop the matter here. Of course, you will be properly compensated for any damages this caused. So that's why you asked me to have Mike unlock my status. Sasuke rubbed his chin in understanding before addressing the elephant in the room. If that's all there is, then why is she here? Sasuke pointed to the half-elf sitting next to her. Rose Fanet gestured to her colleague. Aina here is one of the few members in the guild who can read the hieroglyphics on the Familia. The werewolf crossed her arms under her breast, making them perk up before crossing her legs. You can trust that she won't leak anything if that's what you're worried about. It wasn't. He couldn't care less about whether or not his status gets leaked, but Mayak, on the other hand, explicitly warned him to not reveal his status to anyone. Period. He already discussed the issue about the guild wanting to take a look just in the case yesterday, and got his approval. Letting out a sigh, Sasuke took off all his upper clothes, causing the two ladies to let out a blush. He then walked towards the half-elf and showed his status to her. Her flushed expression turned into shock before paling at what she saw. Seeing Aina's reaction, Rose's eyes narrowed at her. What is it, Aina? She inquired, waiting on the verdict. All stats are in single digits, she announced, causing the werewolf's eyes to widen in surprise. It's true. He is only a level 1. There was silence between the two as Sasuke put on his clothes again. The two were shocked about the revelation as their eyes looked towards the person in askance. Noticing their curious eye, Sasuke just shrugged. I'm just built different. His answer caused the two to let out a tired sigh. Well, with this we can confirm that nothing illegal is going on, Rose said, rubbing her forehead. Though how you could travel all the way down the lower floor still remains a mystery. She glanced up at him again, only to receive another shrug. I'll write the report along with other matters. Leave it to me, Aina said, standing up and excusing herself. Once she left the room, Rose suddenly sank into her seat, letting out another tired sigh while Sasuke continued to enjoy his tea. You know, my superiors were pressuring me to get some answers about you. He raised a brow. They had even thought about personally visiting your Familia to settle this matter, but I managed to convince them to leave it to me and Aina. I see. Thank you. She chuckled at his lackluster response. I guess that's the best I'm getting out of you, aren't I? The response she got was a soft clink. His teacup was placed down on the saucer on the table. There's nothing else. I'd like to know if there are quests asking for help outside Rio. She smiled wryly. She expected him to ask her that. He started doing quests ever since his second week as an adventurer and had always asked her about it. Don't worry, there aren't a lot of people who are willing to take those requests since the pay is bad, she said, standing up and leaving the room, prompting Sasuke to follow. I think you're the only one who's been accepting those quests lately. It usually gets shelved to newbies, or those who can't go into the dungeon anymore. Indeed, most of the people who would accept quests like those would be newbie adventurers who had no experience and want to make a quick buck, or those who can't enter the dungeon anymore for whatever reason. Though, it's usually because of trauma. Exiting the private room, Rose walked to her station and pulled out 3 sheets of paper. Each contains a request for help regarding monsters spotted near their villages. She handed them over to Sasuke, who took a look at them. Not a problem. I'll have all this done by the end of the day. Usually, she wouldn't believe such boasting, if it weren't for the fact that he completed even more of this quest even earlier. So to say that 3 quests would take him until the end of the day means something was up. You can usually finish these kinds of quests by midday, she stated, noticing him letting out a sigh. Is there something wrong? She wasn't worried. She made it a point to never get close to any adventurers due to them dying and leaving her alone. Her past experience molded this belief that served her up until now. But for some reason, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. She couldn't say the same about the person in front of her. She unconsciously clenched her fists together underneath her desk. He then accepted the quest and left the guild. Once she saw that left, she slumped down on her desk. Boy problems? Rose lifted her head to glare at the person who spoke those words. The silver-haired elf, Sophie, was looking at her with a sly smile. You know my policy, Sophie. Never get close to adventurers. She sighed as she sat up straight, trying to remain as professional as possible lest she gets told off again by her superiors for not maintaining the image of the guild. Besides, he said he wasn't interested in getting into a relationship. Oh, I didn't know you two were close enough to talk about such things. Sophie teased. Rose didn't fall for it and simply huffed. Misha was the one who brought it up when she butted in our conversation last time. He said that he'll probably be single for the rest of his life. She recalled his statement as her tail started angrily swaying. Sophie noticed this but didn't point it out. She simply shook her head. Whether Rose noticed it or not, she was actually the one who was engaging in conversation with the raven-haired boy. She'll just watch and wait to see how this situation will unravel itself. I'm back, Sasuke announced his return as he entered Blue Pharmacy. The sun was still up, having finished all his quests and errands earlier than he originally thought. Upon entering his Familia home, he saw Naza and Mayak conversing with 2 new faces. One was Deity, their divine aura giving them away immediately. She was a diminutive goddess with long black hair tied into twin tails and was wearing a white dress with a blue ribbon tied underneath her bust. Sasuke did a double take at that. The other had a familiar shade of white hair, standing next to the goddess, stiffly bowing his head in front of Mayak. His deity didn't mind the stiffness and simply laughed, assuring the white-haired boy to relax. He then noticed me and gestured for me to come closer. Sasuke, great timing. Come, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine. Nodding his head, he made his way towards them as the 2 turned around to face him. Both showed surprised faces, but for 2 different reasons. Whoa, you're Mayaka's second child? She was surprised as she looked up and down before looking at the Rinnegan. Is that your real eye? Yes, it's a mutation. Sasuke quickly answered before anyone could for him. While he appreciated the concern, it gets tiring every time. Instead, he shifted his focus to the other person in the room. We meet again, white hair. His wide red eyes widen in recognition. Ah, it's you, the nice person who gave me a potion. Aichin. Huh. Oh, that's just how he says yes sometimes. Mayak helpfully informed. Anyways, that's Sasuke Uchiha, currently the 2nd member of our Familia and the vice captain. By default. Ooh, nice to meet you, Sasuke. I am the goddess Hestia, and this is my first child, Cranel. Hestia introduced herself, as well as her child, who stiffly bowed at him. Wait a minute, Cranel? Why does that sound familiar? Sasuke stared at the white-haired boy, taking in his appearance as his face started to sweat at his intense and intimidating gaze. Sasuke? Sasuke? Is something wrong? He ignored Mayak and Naza's words as something was coming up in his mind. He was remembering something important. Then suddenly, it all clicked. Danmachi, Sasuke muttered, his eyes widening minutely before he hit it. Shaking his head, he addressed everyone. Sorry, he looked familiar to a boy I know. Is that so? Bell stuttered nervously, glad that he didn't offend the scary-looking man. Meanwhile, Sasuke came to the sudden realization that just met the protagonist of this anime world. It was as if a great fog had cleared in his mind. The memories of Danmachi came swarming back to him in full. Were his memories tampered with? He didn't recognize anyone up until now. While he only watched the first season, he kept up with the story only through osmosis because of how popular it was, along with browsing the wiki as well as reading fanfiction. So I knew who Naza and Mayak were now, as well as the fan-favorite Rose Fanet. Why were his memories of Danmachi suppressed? Is the person who brought him here the one who did it? Most likely. But if so, to what end? Were they hoping for me to join the protagonist on his adventure of something? To fight the big bad? Or to simply change fate? What would his existence here would change? Honestly, Sasuke didn't really care. Whether Bell succeeds or not, Sasuke is confident that he could kill the Black Dragon, or whatever, so the plot can just screw itself. Sorry about that. Anyways, it's nice meeting you, Bell Cranel. Sasuke held out a hand. Let's get along as fellow adventurers. Yes, let's get along, Mr. Uchiha. Bell was surprised before happily accepting his hand and enthusiastically shaking it. And with that, fate has changed. Whether be it for the good or bad will be remain to be seen. One more thing, Sasuke added. Yes? Drop the mister. This body of mine is only 19.